welcome to you, Alan.
Thanks, Jared. Dwayne, welcome.
It's been, what's it been now, 13 odd years since you're on the board. You've had a bit of experience. My understanding, according to those on the board with you, you're a fairly generous and you're a fairly effective board member. What happened at the end that, I guess, cut your tenure short?
The rest of the board had a disagreement with Joseph Gutnick, and eventually they made a deal, which the critical point in which was that they agreed that he could comment on the issues that had been in dispute, but we couldn't. And I couldn't live with that arrangement. It didn't seem to me that was equitable. So I resigned from the board. It was perfectly amicable. Some of the people who are on the board then I'm still friendly with. I wouldn't say Joseph and I see eye to eye on much. 13
years later, you now want to be president. Do you understand now just how much has changed in footy and how much work is involved in footy? We've had 2 presidents this year resign, effectively because the workload has, in a time of crisis, has been incredibly difficult.
Well, I've never shirked workload, and I think my public record demonstrates that. Of course, I don't fully understand how a football club operates until I get there, if I get there. But I've been president of the federal president of the Liberal Party for the last 6 years, and I've managed business commitments and being federal president long before all this broke. I'd already told the Liberal Party that after this election I did not intend to renominate. So all the time I've been putting into the Liberal Party and more will now be available for the Melbourne Football Club should I become president.
Are you only offering yourself though as president? Because today on the website they put up a set of conditions after the board review as to how to take the board forward, and one of that is you put yourself up the nominations committee. Are you prepared to, I guess, seek nomination as president from the board? Because that would seem to me to be the way that things are done.
Well, as I said in the interview I did yesterday, I've submitted myself to that process. I've also nominated a number of other people, and I've been advised by both the football club and by the AFL that they regard them as good candidates. That's not to say they'll select them, but they've acknowledged they're very good candidates. Obviously, I have 2 concerns about the process at the moment. One, the members are getting information in dribs and drabs and don't have much knowledge about what's going on. I think the club and to a lesser extent the AFL have already started responding to what I've been putting to them over the last 6 weeks or so. But secondly, nobody's giving Melbourne members the opportunity to have any say, and part of the plan I have is to give Melbourne members an opportunity beyond, there's a lot of activity on social media, as you'd be aware, but beyond that there's no sort of disciplined approach to convey to the AFL and to the football club board who they would like to see as president. Now I'm offering myself, and I'm making it open for people to express a view about that, and I'll do that in a disciplined way over the next day or so.
So are you rocking this boat, or it looks like it's just steadying ever so slightly under Peter Jackson and Peter Spargo's there as well, or are you coming on to help steady it? Because it seems to be steadying in the last month or so, and by only offering to become president, is that going to rock what's already started?
Well, there are 2 things I think involved, Dwayne. One is I certainly don't rock boats. That's not what I've done throughout my career, particularly in politics. I rebuilt the Liberal Party, or helped rebuild the Liberal Party, from a pretty desperate state in 2007 and 2008 to the point where we're competitive all around Australia. Now that obviously doesn't all depend on the federal president of the party, but you have to have a president who can lead that sort of process and bring people together. I would certainly say that I've been very successful in getting the whole team working together in a very, very difficult environment. On the football club, I only have one disagreement with Peter Jackson, and that's around governance. And I think that's a proper thing for a president and a presidential candidate to be concerned about. In terms of the decisions he's made since he came there and the objectives that he's put to me, I don't quibble with anything he's saying. I think clearly Melbourne needs to change its culture. It needs a very clear sense of direction. It needs a board that recognises its job's not to run the football team. Its job is to provide accountability, set strategy, endorse the actions of the management and subject the management to scrutiny about delivering the strategy. I think Peter Jackson's restructuring of the football department, as far as I can gauge from talking to other people, reflects best practice. And I think it will work much better. I think in the past, management and the board have tended to intervene more than they should. They've said publicly that they felt the need to intervene under Cameron. I believe that I have the proven track record to actually bring this club together. One thing I've always valued is the sort of respect I have in the community. It's very common for people to come up and congratulate me, join Jeff in it, congratulate us on what we achieved for Victoria. I think bringing people together and building confidence is really important. That's not to say that Melbourne's going to turn around overnight. I think anybody who thinks that they're going to see instant success just doesn't understand how long and difficult a process it is to build on-field success. But restructuring the whole club doesn't have to wait for that. And the really critical thing, I think, is to have a strong board. We've got a very strong CEO, to recruit good people, the best available, into the positions we've got, and show the supporters and the members of this football club Melbourne's on the right track.
We're talking to Alan Stockdale, who's the former Victorian Treasurer. He's now the Liberal Party Federal President, and he's put his hand up to be the President of the Melbourne Footy Club. Are you prepared to go head-to-head with Jeff Kennett if he relaunches a bid?
Well, I don't think Jeff will relaunch a bid, and as you well know, he and I are very close. I do, however, owe him a square off that I did say yesterday that his record at Hawthorn was reasonable. I think that was understating it in the context of announcing candidature. I'd have to say he did a really good job at Hawthorn. He got one premiership and he's probably set them up for another as president. Now again, that's a team job.
We heard from Andrew Demetrio. You have got obvious credentials. You're the president of the Liberal Party, you're the former Victorian Treasurer, and yet I didn't really get any solid endorsement from the words of Andrew Demetrio. Have you spoken to him?
Yeah, I've spoken to the AFL repeatedly over the last 6 weeks.
Well, why wouldn't they come out and say we've found our man?
Well, because they're running a process, and because Andrew was quite careful with his words there. The AFL's made it very, very clear to everybody, including to me, that the identity of the president and the structure of the board, the personnel of the board, is a key condition in the support the AFL's providing, and the AFL wants to sign off on the board. Now, I accept that's the only practicable course. Melbourne needs a board in place right now. It should have had it already. It needs it now. The supporters need to see that there are people accountable to the members and the supporters who are forming the board, and in particular the president. We should be there already. The process is going through. It's a very careful and considered process. But I have said I'm happy to participate in that process, and I've put forward other names as individuals, not as a ticket, but as individuals to be taken into account in that process.
What do you say to those at Melbourne who have been there the last 5 or 6 years rebuilding the club? What do you say to those who are critical of you because you haven't joined the Foundation Heroes?
I say
so
welcome.
what are the Foundation Heroes, if you can...
Foundation Heroes are the group of men that backed Jimmy Steins and Chris Connolly, who ran it, that basically wiped off the debt demolition.
So the boys with the big checks. Okay.
Well, I've been in the Liberal Party for that amount of time, and I've had to support the organisation that I'm heading up. I would do the same thing were I to take on the presidency of the Melbourne Football Club. But I say to everybody at Melbourne, let's all get together. We've had too much division in the past. We've had too many people with their own agendas, they're often fairly petty. I think everybody is ready to say, after next year, it will be 50 years since Melbourne won a flag. 50 years is too long to wait. And we have to set the direction now. It's not going to happen overnight, but if we set a clear direction now with strong leadership, backing up a strong CEO, if we recruit a top-class football manager, which I think we will, if we recruit good recruitment people, which has been a big failing of Melbourne with some notable exceptions. Mind you, some of our best people went off to the Swans, but in the past we've had good recruitment, but for the last decade or so we haven't. And the football department, I think, being restructured and committed to excellence, and Peter going after the best people available, is absolutely essential to set the direction.
Alan, you're a great politician, but you understand we also have to pay Jared's wage and do a few ads. So thanks for coming.